You know, it's taken me 3 tries to get this like this, and it's still not perfect, but it's what I got. Hi, welcome to another day of the world according to Gwen. If you've been following this, you know that I'm doing this little series on relationships because your whole life is a relationship. It's a relationship with you. It's a relationship with everybody you come into contact with. It's, all it is a relationship. And I, as you know, if you've been doing this with me for a few days, have been in some tumultuous turns of relationship, especially over the past week. And by special request, today I'm going to talk a little bit about books because that maid of mine, said to me last night, "You took the books. You stole back what you gave. You can't even admit that you're shit. Just leave me alone." So let's talk about these books because I don't mind talking about the books. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh, that's what it is. This is reason. This is prior to the books quote. Add to your YouTube how you went into my house, went into my room, took things including my books. Okay, so let's start with that right there. Do you remember the video a couple of days ago about social biases? Was it social biases? Social boundaries. And I had told you that because it had only been like 24, maybe 30 hours since I had last been at his house, that I went ahead and I drove there. I'd called, I'd texted, I'd said I was coming, all these different things, and I got there and I spoke to his elderly father. And so anyways, because all this time period has been such a fresh thing and it has been such a roller coaster up and down all along, I did not feel like I was violating any type of a social boundary to go by, especially because I had called and that kind of stuff. And I had just been there like the day before, day and a half before. So I went, I speak to his father. I'm like, well, do you know where he is? I'm going to go look in his room. I look in his room and I'm like, nope, not here. And I was like, well, I am here. Things are a little bit weird. Is there anything that I've left here that maybe I should get in the event that everything continues to go crazy dramatic? And I had a cell phone charger, so I grabbed that, and that was it. That was all. The books that he's referring to, days before, when we were happily, deeply in love, I went ahead and I picked up a couple of books that I had recently purchased for him and for us. I already had my own copies. He didn't have a copy of it. So, and he didn't really, well, I take that back. He told me that he did flip through one of the books. And it had just been a couple of weeks prior. But it did, there, I was like, hey, let's look in here for a little bit of maybe some exercises, some words of wisdom, something to help us get through this kind of rough patch. But it never happened, and it just, I don't know what to say. That didn't happen that way. And I didn't think he was interested in him. I didn't think he cared about him. He didn't say very much to me other than, I looked in that one and I kind of liked it. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I figured you really would. And so on that note, now we have the background on the books. Ladies, gentlemen, people, you have to tell me, was it... Well, this is a little bit of a monologue where I'm wanting to have some dialogue, so that's why YouTube is really cool. They have that comment section there. Did I break the rules by going in? I don't think so, but this is not just, I'm not the only person on this planet. Anyways, so the books. There were a total of 4 books, which, let me confess, today I have repurchased and am having shipped to his house, and they should be there by next week. You know, Amazon, what can you say? The books are, because I have them here, and today is the first time that I have done any type of prep work for any of this. But the books are Be Love Now by Ram Dass. This is new to me. I'd never read it before. I didn't even know that this book had been published. Be Love Now, The Path of the Heart. I've been a fan of Ram Dass so far. He's the guy that's accredited with Be Here Now, who wrote that book, which is another one of the books. So, Be Love Now. The Four Agreements. If you don't know the Four Agreements or anything about the Four Agreements, the Four Agreements are: be impeccable with your word, always do your best, don't take it personally, and don't make assumptions. And if I keep my head together while we do this, we're going to talk a little bit about that, especially the personally part and the assumptions part. Sweet little book. One of my favorites for years, Deepak Chopra's The Path to Love, Guide for Spiritual Strategies for Healing. And we'll come back to this too. And then, dun dun dun, Be Here Now. Oh baby, be here now. And you know, the thing about being here now, that was really a rather painful thing for me over the years, was that just because I was here did not mean I was necessarily going to enjoy it or like it, but I'm still here. So learning how to decide about what am I going to be now. That might sound like a totally flaky blonde type of thing to you, for me to say that. Other people a little bit deeper, a little bit more reflective might go, oh, like, yeah, I could see that. I was being a jerk. I was being rushed. I was being, let's be some positive things. I was being transparent. Sometimes that's not always positive. I was being honest. I was being vulnerable. I was being the best I know of myself for now. All these things we're being, right? So we are, I am a human being, not a human doing, not a human saying, not a human thinking, a human being. And that's a big deal. Being is a big deal. And to be honest and look inside and go, well, what am I being? For instance, even as I said that, I'm thinking to myself, well, am I being respectful of someone's time who's watching this? Am I talking too much? Am I rambling on too much? But this is life. This is real life, and that's where I'm at with that. So the book Be Here Now, and that's the one that I'm thinking that my mate was looking for. So, like I said, I did take just a tiny little bit of prep time with this today, and Be Here Now is a book that was very helpful for me when I embarked on a transformational path on purpose. By accident and on purpose, by a purposeful accident and accidental purpose. Anyways, so I thumbed through it a little bit. It is one of my favorites. In fact, I used to have my house wallpapered with the inside. It's that much of my favorite. And this here, from Bindu to Ojas, and you know, I'll tell you honestly, I don't even know what that means. But Hanuman. And honey, I think I figured it out. You are Hanuman, the monkey god of service and devotion. That's why you're always saying that we should just be like monkeys, full of service and devotion. I didn't know that till today. Anyways. And then this here. Don't you love it? The Heart Cave. Whoop. I still keep that one around in my house. What does it say? Except ye be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. Unless you start again, become that trusting, open, surrendered being, the energy can't come in. That is the kingdom of heaven, the energy. It is the same thing, cosmic consciousness. Oh, consciousness equals energy, equals love, equals awareness, equals light, equals wisdom, equals beauty, equals truth, equals purity. It's all the same trip. It's all the same. Any trip you want to take leads to the same place. Purify enough. Immerse. Beauty, become it. The potter becomes his pot. Embrace the 10,000 beautiful visions. Become one with the universe. All the energy passes through you. You are all the energy. And it all resides in your heart. You can go within to your spiritual heart, your Hridayam. You can then know that you are He. And it is from this place in our heart cave where we are now, which we watch the entire drama that is our lives. We watch the illusion with unbearable compassion. And I'm going to skip a few pages because this was one of the things that I was really liking of. But you're still only going to see hints. You've got a way to go yet. Gate, Paragate, Paramahansagate, Bodhisattva, gone, beyond. Hail the goer. Beyond even conceiving of a place, beyond which you can go beyond. Who's adventurous enough to want to go on that journey? Do you realize that when you go on that journey, in order to get you to the destination, you can never get to the destination. In the process, you must die. That is hardcore. You must die. It's a pretty fierce journey, pretty fierce requirement. We want volunteers. Well, you know I'm new at all this video stuff, so bear with me. So who wants to volunteer? I love it. Now, we'll make the journey as comfortable as possible, but you have to realize that after you pass through the Van Allen belt, you're going to get into another belt of radiation, which is going to crisp you completely, and you will die. But there will be an essence left that will get you through. Now, who would like to volunteer? Ready? Well, couldn't we make a specially insulated suit? No, sorry, can't do it. But if you propel hard enough, there will be going through. There will be something that will get through to the other side. We can't really define what you'll be, but you'll be beyond that. Why would anyone want to go on a trip like that? Adventure? Well, the one thing about an adventure is the adventurer wants to stay around and adventure. And if he's going to be crisped in the process, there is going to be no adventurer left to have had the adventure. That one, I still have to process that day in and day out. But you see, there's something that pulls a person toward this journey. Way back, deep inside, is a memory. There is something inside each of us that comes from beyond that veil, behind the place of our own birth. It's as if you have tasted of something somewhere in your past that's been so high, so much light, so much energy, that nothing you can experience through any of your senses or your thoughts can be enough. Somewhere inside, everybody knows that there is a place which is totally fulfilling. Not a desperate flick of fulfillment, it's a state of fulfillment. You may experience despair, that you'll never know that. Good, because through the despair, and through the despair comes surrender, and through that surrender you get closer to it. Look, isn't it sweet? Little baby. My daughter is pregnant with her first baby, little baby. And then, of course, beautiful lotus flower. And what keeps you from that place that gives you that total fulfilling and experience, knowing of fulfillment? all of this posturing, it's all of your thoughts, all your way of organizing your world, all your plans, all of your games, your exploring. Some of us do go on this journey. We didn't stand up and say we volunteer. It didn't work that way at all. It's not like you had a choice of volunteering or not volunteering. That isn't the way it works. It's as if you're propelled into it, like the moth into the flame. But yet nobody's pushing you. Nobody's standing around saying, hey, get in, take every third man. He goes, he goes. It doesn't work that way either. It's a little more like the image of a caterpillar enclosing itself in a cocoon in order to go through the metamorphosis. To emerge as a butterfly, the caterpillar doesn't say, well now, I'm going to go climb into this cocoon and climb out a butterfly. It's just an inevitable process. It's inevitable. It's just happening. It's got to happen that way. Got is underlined. We're talking about a metamorphosis. We're talking about going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. We're talking about how to become a butterfly. I mean, the caterpillar isn't walking around saying, man, I'll soon be a butterfly, because as long as he's busy being a caterpillar, he can't be a butterfly. It's only when caterpillarness is done that one starts to be a butterfly. And that again is part of this paradox. You cannot rip away caterpillarness. It really makes me think about that thing of peeling back the onion. You know, people like to use that analogy and stuff nowadays. My friend, Helena, she was my friend. I could still call her friend, that's okay. She talked about it more like a flower petal blooming. That's what my teacher always talked about, Bikram, the flower petal blooming. He didn't say pull back a stinky onion, he said a flower petal blooming. And like Helena taught me, if you pull all the petals and you don't let them just bloom in their own time, you know, you're not going to have anything left if you just pull all the petals apart. So you cannot rip away caterpillarness. The whole trip occurs in an unfolding process under which you have no control. Well, that's a hard one. What am I doing here if I have no control? You mean I don't have any choice? Can't I say this is nonsense? Can I say this is important? My God, your lecture changed my whole life. You think that's choice? No, not at all. It's an unfolding process. I like this one too. This is really, what did he talk about earlier? That satisfaction thing for me. No accidents. If you could stand back far enough and watch the whole process, you would see. You are a totally determined being. The very moment you will wake up is totally determined. How long you will sleep is totally determined. What you will hear of what I say is totally determined. There are no accidents in this business at all. Accidents are just from where you're looking to the ego. It looks like it's miracles and accidents. No miracles, no accidents. It's just your vantage point that you're sort of stuck in. I do want to do just a little bit more. This whole trip I'm talking about is fraught with paradox. The most exquisite paradox is, as soon as you give it all up, you can have it all. Well, how about that one? As long as you want power, you can't have it. The minute you don't want power, you'll have more than you ever dreamed possible. What a weird thing. As long as you have an ego, you're on a limited trip. You're on a trivial trip that's going to last maybe, 60, 70, maybe 80 years, and full with fear of its end, trying to make its own eternity. Well, if I am not speaking, if I am not what I thought I was, how did I get into this? Who am I? For only when I know who I am will I know what is possible. Understanding the possibility. I love that. And what I really love even more is this, because God knows for sure this past week I have felt a bit like that man, but I didn't film that on video. I mean, if you really want me to, I will, but I don't think anybody really wants to see me like that. My kids can tell you, no, I've seen Mama like that. You really don't want to see that. So, understanding the possibilities. There are 3 ways in which one knows what we are talking about tonight. One way in which you know about it is through direct experience. Through some way or another, through being alone in the desert, through falling in love, through bearing a child, through nearly dying, through turning on, through yoga, through taking any one of your senses and pushing it beyond itself. Going through it, you have touched a place inside yourself that has an intuitive validity. It's intuitively valid inside. You know it's right. I've been with, literally now, well over 100 people who have had such an experience which was powerful and valid, but it was so discontinuous with their normal consciousness that they screamed for help. The help that was available to them was a group of minds which said, "That's all right, you've just gone crazy." That is, the experience you've just had is the experience of psychosis. William James said, "Our normal waking consciousness is but one special type of consciousness, whilst all about it, parted from it by the filmiest of screens, there lies potential forms of consciousness entirely different." We may go through life without suspecting the existence, but apply the requisite stimulus, beep. At a touch, they are there in all their completeness. Definite types of mentality which probably somewhere have their field of application and adaptation. I really can't read that word. Something of the universe in its totality. Something of the universe in its totality can be final, which leaves these other forms of consciousness quite disregarded. How to reclaim them is the question. Ding! For they are so discontinuous with ordinary consciousness, they may determine attitudes, though they cannot furnish formulas, and open a beacon though they fail to give a map. At any rate, concludes James, they forbid our premature closing of accounts with reality. Ding! In spite of what he said, we've closed our accounts with reality. Most of us, anyways. I can't say whether I'm part of that. It depends day in and day out. Oh, that experience you've had is psychotic. I'll give you Thorazine. It's not valid. You're hallucinating. What do you mean you're God? The understanding of the possibility may have come to you directly through the experience itself, or it may have come to you through inference, through your intellect. You may have reasoned and reasoned and reasoned until you saw the peculiar position that rational man is in, and you realized that there must be something else. Although you have not experienced it, you just infer the presence of something else. It doesn't quite make sense. Nothing turns you on, you haven't experienced it directly, but you figured there must be something else. There must be something there. And then you read all the writings of St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila and all the mystics and the visionaries in recorded history, and you say, well, they can't all be nuts. They must be talking about something. So you sort of infer the presence of this other thing, but you don't know it in your guts. Now, that's a tough one to be in that position. And then the third way is that you trust the fact that there are realized beings. And they said it, and therefore you know it to be true. It's not inference anymore. It's not an intellectual process. You just accept what they have said. Now that's faith. See, we've gotten so super sophisticated in our evaluative mechanisms that you question everything you hear. How do you know you're not being hustled? I mean, what was Jesus up to anyways? What's the game, man? What's he into? And you especially feel paranoid if you are one of the keepers of the tables in the temple. If you are committed to an existing system, with great attachment, with great attachment, some way or other, most of you in this room, most of you, not all of you, most of you have sensed the possibility, but you can't quite surrender. What are you giving up? A hollow little trip that's good for another 40 years at best? You're giving it up for eternal union, pure energy and pure light, because surrender means you no longer die. It's as simple as that. That's what it means, because you that lives and dies is you, ego. And fear of death only comes through the brittleness of the ego. Total surrender. Total surrender. There's no more you, no more life and death. Yeah, I'm gonna die. Wow, dig that. I'm gonna live. Wow, dig that. Garbage. Wow, new blossoms on the tree. Wow, patterns of energy. All patterns of energy. You are part of it all. That's the place. So, but I got to do this one too. Does that say? You don't have to have that urge, that desire, that unfulfilled thing. Just let it be. Don't touch the painting. Just let it be. Be more. What's holding you back? Your thoughts, huh? Just ego planning. What are you doing? Planning for the future. Well, it's all right now. But later. Forget it, baby. That's later. Now is now. Are you going to be here now or not? It's as simple as that. What did we call it? Love. Be with what is. Oh, yes, and my daughter will tell you my sins for this. But I'm so young. I have so many things to do yet. Well, that'll sure keep you from being here now. Life is passing me by. But if I live just in the here and now, won't there be chaos? What happens if the telephone rings? Well, the here and now is the fact that the telephone is ringing. Pick it up. Well, what if somebody wants me to make an appointment with me to see me 3 weeks from now? Write it down. That's here and now. Well, what happens 3 weeks from now? 3 weeks from now? Well, that's now. From now, there's that appointment. Then, well, what is here and now? When your child comes down the stairs all over again, this is the first moment. We never had this breakfast before. This is it. This is all there is right now. If it's not good enough, man, it's not good enough. Holy camole. Like, that's big. Well, you know what? No, it's really not big. It is what it is. That's what it is. It is what it is. And I am not necessarily a fan of that particular statement, but the truth and the validity of it is what it is. So, that's a little small introduction to Be Here Now, and it goes through all these dark pages here. That was what we wallpapered the house with. And then in the back there's this really beautiful part that's called, oh, look. See? With the man, well, the male and the female aspect of us as gods, and Hanuman. Cookbook for a Sacred Life. This has all kinds of really neat stuff in it. And you know, that probably doesn't sound like it should, but there are a lot of really beautiful things in there. And at the end of every chapter, they give these potent quotes. Our friends found us becoming dull, Guruji said. Well, there is worse to come. He's an interesting man who lies well. You have already begun to die. It's a long way yet to complete death, but still a certain amount of silliness is going out of you. You can no longer deceive yourselves as sincerely as you did before. You have now got the taste of truth. It's from Ouspensky. Bad company is loss, and good company is gain. In company with the wind, the dust flies heavenwards. If it joins water, it becomes mud and sinks. That's from Tulsi Das. When going through spiritual exercises, do not associate with those who never concern themselves with matters spiritual. Such people scoff at those who worship God and meditate upon Him, and they ridicule piety and the pious. Keep yourself far aloof from them. I must now whisper very unceasingly, I was not born separate from you. I'm not going to cry right now. That was earlier today. That was last night. And my daughter, knowing my sins, when I was reading, and he says, there's, oh, but I'm so young. I don't have time. All of these things. I was talking to my daughter last night, and I was like, hey, I'm not 18 anymore. I don't have time to waste. I want to spend what I have left of this life with this man. And so there, it's my own ego, huh? Yep, I still have one. And you know what I got real comfortable with over the last however many days, hours, is that I'm gonna have one. So long as I have this body, I'm gonna have one. So, at a minimum, and we'll see what comes after that. Told you I did a little bit of prep work. I know this is getting long. It's already 30 minutes. From the 4 agreements, don't take it personally. Don't make assumptions. Be impeccable with your word and do your best. Previously, in my conversations with my mate, we would be in the midst of a scratchy conversation. That's what I like calling them, is scratchy. And I would not speak right away. And he'd be like, you're withholding, you're holding back, you're withholding. And I was like, no, I'm thinking for a minute about what I'm going to say, because how am I being, what am I being, what kind of words are going to come out of my mouth, because words are hard to take back. So, be impeccable with your word. How about that? I do my best. I don't always succeed at it. You know, I told you I work as a nurse in a hospital, and when I come into my patient's room and I tell them ABC, XYZ, whatever, and I say, hey, and I'll be back in a few minutes, and then I turn around, I say, and that's nurse time, a few minutes, which is sometimes like 45, and if you need me before that, please don't hesitate to call or ask. Because I did take this seriously when I first read this 4 agreements 20, 30 years ago, about to be impeccable with my word. I realized where I was really sloppy, and decided to make conscious effort to stop. Do your best. That's a no-brainer. And I remember there's this great surfing video called Shelter, and this guy is talking, and he goes, if you think you're the what does he say? Something along the lines of, like, it's a problem if you think you're the smartest one in the room. Everybody's got something to offer, and everybody's just doing the best that they can. Something like that, he says. And yes, I will confess, I am a person who has had times where I've thought for sure I was the smartest one in the room. And fortunately, I still remember that thing from Shelter, and I humble myself, or allow myself to be humbled by the Maker, and go, everybody's got something to offer, no matter who they are or where they're from. That's what he says. Don't take it personally. So, relationships are sacred ground. What transpires between 2 people? I am a person. When people don't, I haven't read the whole little thing in the book about don't take it personally, and I don't know if I ever will. What I do know is when I go back and forth about things about taking it personally, sometimes people are just having a really shitty day. You know, sometimes they are, and they might snap at you or whatever. And so I hope that what the author means by don't take it personally is like, oh, just because that person is having a crappy time, like, don't rub it in their face, or necessarily engage and fight back, turn the other cheek. And good Lord have mercy, dear. Do you know? Like I think about that. That's part of what brought things to where they are. Was that we did engage because it's part of the process of having a deeper relationship. I'm going to save that for another time. That's what I'm going to do. But if you feel your person is being attacked or not respected or appreciated or whatever, got to decide just how long going to go with that. So don't take it personally. And then don't make assumptions. This is a big thing I thought about. This is why I kept it to write the note, because so much communication is going on with text messages, and in text messages you lose a lot of the wholeness of communication. Okay, help me remember, this is a type of thing we want to have a video about later, and the use of computers and technology. People, I'm sure you've heard the phrase Antichrist. I'm a believer that technology is the Antichrist as far as those cultural term for Antichrist right now, because we're at a change of times, and I was watching in a video called Hypernormalization, and they were talking about the use of computers. Actually, I might even be doing a little bit of this right now. People talking with computers to help themselves, and because the computer did not give any judgment, the computer just simply would state back to them what they said. Allowing the computer didn't take it personally when it said, I feel like whatever, whether it was for good or for bad. But the assumptions part, if the computer says back to you, you stole the books, that's not the analogy I was looking for. Communicating in text messages, we lose a lot of the human component of connection that's been created over, quite literally, God only knows how long, millennia at a minimum, right? Because we humans, we communicate with sound, with sight, with intuition. And so when we get text messages, it's easy to make assumptions that, well, they meant it this way, or it leaves a lot out. And if we do go into all the details of this experience, we'll go into the text messages, and some things is very plain and easy to go, oh, well, that text message means that. Or regardless of what was meant by it, did it have to be said that way? And not all is bad. There's plenty of good. I have several loving text messages in there. It's just that balance of the scales. Sorry this has taken so long, but this is what it is. This is not necessarily meant to be an instructional video. The Path to Love, what a beautiful book. But what I kept from this to close this up with, hope my eyes can read it affectionately or correctly. All perspectives are valid, yet those that approach nearer to God contain more of His qualities: truth, compassion, acceptance, and love. Your consciousness is your contribution to reality. What you perceive as real becomes real. That's a big deal. Well, it's this life thing. When two people, so let's read it again. Your consciousness is your contribution to reality. What you perceive as real becomes real. When two people come together in love, they weave a fabric of consciousness. If the fabric is strong, then both lovers have made it so. Each loving thought and action is a thread added to the fabric. In Sanskrit, the word for thread is sutra, which also has a metaphysical meaning. A sutra is an aphorism or formula that expresses some fundamental truth about consciousness. When Rumi says, "Love is the sea where intellect drowns," he's uttering a sutra. It expresses a truth from his level of awareness, and at the same time, it weaves truth by adding a thread no one else has added before. In a moment of clarity and insight, Rumi felt within himself that his intellect no longer struggled against love, but was absorbed into it, as if being drowned in the sea. His sutra reflects that experience and at the same time evokes it in us as we read it. You and your beloved have privileged moments in which you understand what your love is. No one else has ever had exactly the same revelation because you are unique people. Your inspirations are yours alone, and even though similar insights have been occurring for thousands of years, to make your revelations your own is important. You need to know what you believe, how far you have come to the path together, how much growth you... Does it say need? Yep. You need to know what you believe, how far you have come on the path together, how much growth you have shared. Sutras can tell you all these things. The exercise here is to write down your inspirations as they come to you. Love grows the more you talk about it, think about it, and express it. Even though moments of insight only last an instant, they are touchstones of something eternal, the relationship between smaller self and higher self. At this moment, your higher self wants you to know about love, but also about truth, compassion, trust, acceptance, and devotion. These are the threads from which the fabric of consciousness is woven. Honey, the exercise here is to write down your inspirations as they come to you. Love grows the more you talk about it, think about it, and express it. I left the most important book there. I'm pretty sure I entitled it From This Day Forward. It doesn't have a whole lot of entries in it right now because we have so much on well, I was going to say because we have so much on text messages, but so much on text messages is really not so great. But because when I would go to write, I don't know, I guess I couldn't pull it all out of myself when I wanted to write those things down. Anyways, it's a spiral bound book. It's on the shelf under the window to the right side. Yeah, From This Day Forward. Well, this has been my longest video thus far. Most of it's just reading from books. What are books? This is what I wanted to wrap up with because this is something that I've been thinking about. Books are media. And a long time ago, when I was taking a course on media communications, mass media communications, I came upon a book called The Medium is the Message. And so this about books as media, why does that matter? This is stuff we'll go into later. The power of suggestion and the absorbing of thoughts into the mind that then we later filter and process through and go with, and some guide our life and some don't. As my mate and I would be knocking heads, battling egos, I would be remembering so many things from this book, The Path to Love. and how he'd talk about, egos battling and different ways to surrender your ego to your beloved. And I'm interested in surrendering, but I'm not going to surrender alone to be beat up. If you want to fight with me, bring it on. So, um, but that's not what I wanted to do. And so we used to say that we would try to wrap things up and say, no, I choose love over ego. And that wasn't always successful, but that's what we want to do. I don't want to keep looking at these glasses; are hurting my eyes. Um, Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever it is that you're going through right now, my hope and prayer for you is that you choose love over ego. Yes, there's a personal component to this. If my mate watches this video thus far, I hope he chooses love with me, because I'm not going to lie. That's the truth. I also recognize, kind of like we're reading in the Be Here Now, I am totally powerless in that. Me, little Gwen, totally powerless in that. It's funky, right? Like that's why I'm doing this. I don't know, how powerless am I? Well, if I clam up, I shut down, I cut him off, I never try to talk to him again, I never do anything again, I never say anything again, then yeah, I really have given up any power I have to direct or change, and then I can just run into him again in 12 more years or 12 more lifetimes. Who knows? Or I can accept the power that I do have and give forth that childlike innocence inside of me. Not innocence. Me. That's all I got is me in all my different shades and wonders and neuroses, whatever you want to call it. Sorry about the text message sound. Yes, let's do have some fun, and let's see what that message is. Because sometimes life is fun like that. Oh, it's Caroline. We're going to have some videos about Caroline and I discussing things. Moms and daughters, what do they talk about? When do they talk about it? How do they talk with each other? Hopefully that'll be coming soon. God bless you always. Om Shanti. Namaste. See you next time. Thanks. Come on, turn off. Oh, I forgot it's not a touch screen. It's an old-fashioned laptop.